On today's show, I'm bringing you a brand new company that came on our radar about a month or two ago. We're talking about no other than Blue Lagoon Resources, Inc. Or you can find them on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol BLAGF. And if you're up there in Canada, you can find them on the CSE under the ticker symbol BLLG. And with us today is the president CEO of the company, Mr. Rana Vig. Rana, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You know, before we get started, if you would give my listeners just a little bit of about statement of who you guys are and where you're at.
Sure. Blue Lagoon Resources, a company I started about a year ago, so it's relatively new. We have an amazing project that we just acquired not even 6 months ago called the Dome Mountain Project up in northern British Columbia, just outside of a town called Smithers, BC, a nice little mining town. And our property is just a short 45 or 50-minute drive right to our mine site. We have a fully permitted mine, just short of 3 amendments that are not very onerous. Only needs about $1 million US in order to finish those amendments, which we have started to get that back into the permission to back into production. And we have just short of a 12,000 hectare property that has 15 high-grade veins on top of the mine, beyond the mine, which haven't, other than the veins, the rest of the property hasn't even been explored yet. So that's in a nutshell what we have, a fully permitted mine, a high-grade mine, and 15 very high-grade veins that are already known, plus a huge piece of the land that hasn't even been explored yet.
Today you put out a press release about a new permit. Can you expand on that a little bit?
It's not so much that it's a new permit, it's the existing permit. And what the news release was talking about is that we've started the work. For years and years, people have been trying to get this thing moving. And unfortunately for them, they were in a bad gold environment, right? Nobody $1,200 an ounce, right? But today at 1,900 and, heading to over 2,000, it becomes an extremely attractive deal. So what we put out today is that, the activity has started. We are fully cashed up. We have no debt. Just announced today that we've signed the key 3 contractors that are needed to get the amendment work going. And it's a beehive of activity up there right now at the site. Lots of things going on, and we're moving forward to get all that amendment work done.
What would you consider your biggest win in your career?
Oh, wow. I guess my biggest one was 2 big cannabis companies that I took public. I got involved in the capital markets about 10 years ago and got my rear end handed to me, to be honest with you, because I jumped into mining because my mentor was in mining, and I put over $1 million into mining in 2011, and about 6 months later, it was worth like 10 grand.
Oh, my God.
What did I get myself into? So I kind of hung in there. I'm a big boy. You lick your wounds, and you no point crying about it, right? And I hung in there for all those years. And in 2018, cannabis industry got hot, and I laser beam focused in on that. And I was very, very fortunate to find a company called Paleotech out of the eastern United States, which eventually changes its name to Curaleaf. I took that company public. It was the largest cannabis raise in Canadian history. $520 million was raised for that. It was a $6 billion RTO. And then so that was a pretty big win. And then 2 months later, I was invited to take on another project and took over another company. And I focused on, again, and found a company called Harvest Health and Rec out of Arizona, which was the 3rd largest raise in 2018, a $300 million raise, a $2 billion RTO. So wow. Sort of back to back my big wins. And call me crazy, I said, but I like mining. I like gold. And so I really wanted to focus in on that, and I'm hoping that this is going to be my next big one.
Well, let me ask you this. As you said earlier, you were involved in CBD, marijuana. Why did you get into mining, and what's the opportunity you saw? Because, there's so many people that are up, especially where you're at up there in British Columbia, or that are in mining, and sometimes things don't come to fruition.
Well, that's true of any business. Look, I'm an entrepreneur, right? Because people say, well, how can you go from cannabis to mining? Well, before, cannabis, I was in publishing. I'm an entrepreneur. The way all my life, for 35 years in business, I've just operated under one premise. Be the dumbest guy in the room, okay? So, I'm very comfortable in my skin. I don't need to tell people, who I am. My ego's in check. I want to be the dumbest guy in the room. I want to surround myself with very, very bright people in that industry. So when I was in the publishing industry, I surrounded myself with the brightest of that industry. When I was in the cannabis industry, I got myself around that. Now in the mining industry, I've got the top technical team, that I can find. So as an entrepreneur, you look for opportunities. And when I was reading, a couple of years ago, what was happening around the world, right, with all this chaos. I mean, have you ever seen a time when governments are printing money, not just here in Canada and the United States, but all over the world? at unprecedented rates, right? Have you ever seen these kind of riots?
No, I agree.
Right? Everything. And then on top of that, add, the perfect trifactor. I mean, the world pandemic going on at the same time. So, all those things are what gold loves, right? That destabilization, that unrest. So, I'm not so smart. I think I just picked the right industry at the right time. I think gold is, on the move. Although it doesn't look like it today, it's retracted today. But these are temporary gyrations of the market, right? That's why I got in. I think we got an opportunity here. It's situations like these, right, that build wealth, right? You got to be at the right time at the right place, and I believe that's where we are today in precious metals.
Eric Sprout came out the other day and he said that he sees projection of silver going to $100 to $150 an ounce.
Super exciting. Companies like ours really only focused in on gold because that's what we typically focus on. But, where there's gold, there's also silver. In fact, in our property, we have a 4-to-1 ratio. So typically we would just discount it. But now with the prices that are at today and what people like, Eric Sprout are projecting, $50, $100 of silver, that makes them extremely, extremely valuable. And particularly for companies like ours, you send the gold off to the mill. It's not like they tell you, hey, we're going to charge you this much for gold and this much for silver. No, the cost is the cost. So essentially the silver for us is like it's free, right? So, with a 4-to-1 ratio, for every 1 ounce of gold, we have 4 ounces of silver. So, it kind of becomes kind of exciting. So yeah, silver is looking really, really good. And what, a lot of people, I don't know if you've been following, but, the major institutions, the last quarterly filings, the 13Fs they had to file, if you look at them, there's some serious players that have jumped in, UBS, Wells Fargo, Barclays, Bank of America. These are all first-time institutions that are poured into silver. So, what's that going to do to the price of silver, right? It's got to go up, right?
Absolutely. And not to mention the great Omaha guy himself invested in the gold this year for the first time.
First time ever, right? Always never liked it, and what's that going to do, right? The general population is going to start talking about it and saying, "Hey, listen, if it's good enough for Warren Buffett, if he's in,
right?"
So absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this: we've got a couple of minutes left. How did you acquire such a great asset in the Dome Mountain project? How did that come to your plate, and how was it? How did you act on it?
Well, these things, like most things in life, really happen by accident. And I say that in kind of tongue in cheek. You work hard and you keep, flipping over every rock that you can, basically looking for opportunities. And this just fell in my lap. And I was kind of not so bullish on it in the beginning because I just heard all these stories too many times. But my job as an entrepreneur is to look at everything. And, this guy showed it to me. I kind of dismissed it. But he kept running into me every couple of weeks in my building. And he says, look, you got to take a look at this. These guys have literally got this project to the 1-yard line, but they've run out of time because they're 83 years old now and not in the best of health. And that immediately, my light bulb went on saying, hey, there's an opportunity here possibly if the property is good.
Right.
I started looking at it, and it's wonderful family, these owners there, they are, aged now, and they couldn't handle it. And, they spent, $28 million have been spent on this property just in the dozen years, in the last 12 years, and $40 million before that. So I knew we had something here, and I just drove a hard bargain. And when I started talking to them, the gold was only at about $14.50, so there was not a lot of interest. So it was just a combination of being at the right place at the right time, and driving a hard bargain and just being patient. And we're very, very fortunate that. And I paid zero cash, by the way, for this property. It was all stock. We pulled off an incredible deal for our shareholders.
Well, speaking of that, your stock's trading around 55 cents. I don't know what your value is on your market cap. If you feel it's undervalued, most CEOs do feel that it's undervalued. Where do we go from here?
Well, I'll tell you why I feel it's undervalued, and I'm confident. I wrote a check into the company for $300,000 personally when the stock was at $1. I'm not worried, right? These are market gyrations, right? They go up and down, and this was before COVID happened and all the craziness of the markets, back in March when the Dow was going up, 2,000, dropping New York was going up 2,000, dropping 1,000, all those things. So these are gyrations. So yeah, I think we have a tremendous amount of upside happening in our company because, we haven't even started exploring the 15 veins, high-grade gold veins, and the rest of the mine just started. So, we are here. Market cap is where it's at. If you look at the snapshot of today where we are, but all that work is starting just now as we're speaking.
So I truly caught you on the ground level here.
Absolutely, 100%. I believe that we have, and not to be over promotional, listen, everybody should do their own due diligence. And I'm just saying what I believe. I have skin in the game. My family has skin in the game, and we wrote money into this company at much higher levels. And I'm excited about it because the work is just beginning. It's like having a raw piece of land, and that has X amount of value, and then you start subdividing it or developing it and putting buildings on it and developing it, and of course the value goes up, right?
Absolutely. We've got about 20 seconds left, Rana. What is it that you want my listeners and your stockholders to take away from today's interview?
Well, I think that the best thing is if anyone's looking to get involved in the precious metal sector, right? Beyond, always should buy some physical gold and some silver for sure, 100%. But beyond that, if they want some leverage, I think they should be looking at companies like ours, and we're not the only ones, but they should be looking at companies like ours. I think there's a tremendous opportunity. If anyone ever wanted to get into the space and have an opportunity to have an upside, there is no better time than today, given what's happening with gold, because we've got nowhere but up to go from here with precious metals. And typically what happens with that is when for every 1 point, the gold will go up. Typically companies like ours will go up multiples of that, right? And that's what's exciting.
Rana Vig's been my guest today. He is the CEO and president of Blue Lagoon Resources. Look them up. They're on the OTCQB, ticker symbol BLAGF. If you're up there in Canada, look them up on the CSE under the ticker symbol BLLG. I want to thank you for coming on the show. Hopefully I didn't scare you off. Hopefully you'll come back on 50 or 60 days, become a regular, and give us an update.
It'll be my pleasure.
This program is entirely sponsored and produced by La Jolla Media LLC, which is responsible for the content. The opinions and information provided on this program are for educational and research purposes. Stock Day encourages all listeners of this program to do their due diligence and research when determining investment strategies that will work for them, or to seek the assistance of an investment professional.